Month, our focus is on nature. And the title of our talk today is the furry, the fuzzy, the slimy, and the scaly, and everyone else. We're so glad that you joined us today. Please feel free to add any prayer requests to our celebrations in our chat. And we will include them later in our service when we do our spiritual mind treatment, which is our form of affirmative prayer. We invite you to get comfortable where you are to minimize distractions and to be able to relax a little bit, breathe deeply, and enjoy our meditation.
Please join us as we create our sacred space. We set our intentions of deepening into our awareness and practice of our 5 pillars of spiritual living by lighting this candle in our virtual world. Our first pillar is sacred study, represented by the divine quality of truth. We use this pillar to recognize the importance of an open mind and the power of our minds. The second pillar is affirmative prayer, represented by the divine quality power. This pillar honors the power of prayer in our daily lives. Our third pillar is meditation and the divine quality of peace. This pillar reminds us of the importance of meditation and the peace we feel when we quiet our minds. The fourth pillar is circulation and the divine quality of life. We know that the great law of circulation works in our lives. As we give, so shall we receive. And the fifth pillar is sacred service and the divine quality of love. This pillar affirms our call to be a service to our world as we see through the eyes of love. Let us close our eyes as we bless this sacred space and our time together. As we weave each of these pillars of spiritual living into our service today, may they deepen our own spiritual practices of study, prayer, meditation, circulation, and service, expanding our minds and our hearts to the 5 divine qualities of truth, power, peace, life, and love. We also bless everyone who made our service possible today and everyone in attendance. May the energy of love that is generated here bless everyone abundantly, and so it is.
Welcome everyone to Center for Spiritual Living, Leesburg. I'm honored to do our meditation today, and I picked out something that I think is going to fall in line with the title of our talk today, the furry, the fuzzy, the slimy, the scaly, and everyone else. So please settle into your chair and join me. Just quiet your mind. Take some deep breaths. Breathing in peace. Breathing out, just release any thoughts or concerns that you might have, that to-do list, anything that's not welcome right here in this moment, in this now. Once again, just breathe in, quiet your mind, prepare to join me on this meditation. Now that we're in this peaceful place, in your mind, I would like you to imagine an animal that you love. It could be a pet that you have in your life now. It could be a pet that you had when you were a child. It could be something that you consider your spiritual animal. It could be an animal that You just like the qualities of that animal. You admire that animal. Just think of an animal that you feel like you have a connection with that is very special to you. Just picture that animal into your mind. And now I would like you to create a place, that habitat where you would find that animal. And I want you to become kind of like Dian Fossey. You're going to observe that animal. So picture yourself at a close distance to the animal. It doesn't see you, but you can see it. You can observe it as it eats. Maybe it's sleeping. Maybe it's just looking around and observing its surroundings. And you are in that place with that animal. And now I'd like you to imagine that this animal has noticed you. And it looks at you, it makes eye contact with you. And there is a silent communication between you and your special animal. And as you lock eyes with this animal, you feel an exchange. There's a bond. There's an awareness of a connection. You just recognize that there's unconditional love. How you feel for this animal, how this animal feels for you. It just warms your heart. And as you make eye contact with this animal, you realize that you are both divinely created. You're both filled with strength and agility, grace and peace, and an inner wisdom. You both have all of these qualities. You are both divinely created. You are both traveling together on the sacred planet. And as you look into this animal's eyes, I want you to hold on to this thought. This animal only lives in the present, the now. It holds on to no memories or resentments of what has happened to it in the past. It just lives for the now, in the present. And as you look at this animal, as you look into its eyes, I want you to realize that it doesn't think about the future. It has no worries, no concerns, no anxiety. What will I be doing tomorrow? What will I do next week? What do I have to get done before the end of the month? This animal is only living in the present, in the now. And that's such a wonderful, peaceful feeling. This animal is your friend. This animal is your teacher. This animal can be your master teacher. It lives here in this safe space. And this animal's always waiting to see you in this special place that you created today at the start of this meditation. You can revisit this peaceful place and connect with your special animal, your sacred animal, your animal spirit guide, whenever you need to do this. It will be here waiting to offer you strength and grace, peace, divine wisdom, and unconditional love whenever you need it. So once again, just look into your animal's eyes. Thank it for the connection that you made today. Promise it that you'll return, just like I do when I leave my house. I say goodbye to my dogs and I reassure them, I'll be home soon. Say that to your animal. Just let it know that you'll visit it whenever you need to make that connection with it. It understands that you'll be back soon. And now just slowly return, because we have a wonderful message for you today. We have wonderful music. So take a deep breath in. Take a deep breath out. Wiggle your fingers and your toes. Open your eyes if you need to do that. And come back and join us. And if you're joining us live on our Zoom and you'd like to tell us what animal you picked during this meditation, feel free to do that. And you can do that while we listen to the wonderful music of Soul Pajamas. Thank you for joining me.
Good morning, everybody. You'll know this one only too well. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly. All your life, you were only waiting for this moment to arise. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these sunken eyes and learn to see. All your life, you were only waiting for this moment to be free. Blackbird fly, blackbird fly into the light of the dark black night. Blackbird fly, blackbird fly into the light of the dark black night. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly. All your life, you were only waiting for this moment to arise. You were only waiting for this moment to arise. You were only waiting for this moment to arise.
Thank you, Soul Pajamas. Always so wonderful. Wow. So it is week 3, you guys. Welcome to week 3. We get to talk about fuzzy things and furry things and slimy things and scaly things, things with a lot of legs. Watch how my face changes from fuzzy to scaly to, and you can see how I've been like conditioning myself over the years to go from, oh, look how cuddly that little kitten is, to eek a mouse or eek a spider. Yet, no matter what I think of the cuddleability of these things, they're all required. They're all required for us as humans to live in harmony with our planet. So welcome to week 3 of Everyday Wonder. Nature is the topic, and we've talked about how we're one with life the first week. And we totally focused on water last week because water really is the elixir of life as we know it. But today, what I hope to speak with you about is to get us a more familial, that feeling that we had when Tamara took us through that lovely meditation where we're looking into the eyes of an animal and we know we love this animal and it loves us back. And that is such a nurturing, freeing feeling. Because as she was saying, that animal's not worried about taxes. It just doesn't. Even if it could be aware of taxes, it would probably be freaking out only on the day that taxes are due. Like, because animals, they only worry about the immediate danger. They're not really planning so far as we can see. And so what I would like to do is just, I love that, to go into the eyes of that animal and to exchange that mutual admiration, to learn a little bit of something from that immersion into the current, the moment, the now moment that animal has. And that's easy for us all to do. I mean, I looked around and there's some quotes for today's talk. One of them is this one. Let's see. When I look into the eyes of an animal, I do not see an animal. I see a living being. I see a friend. I feel a soul. That's nice. That's really nice, from Anthony Douglas Williams. There's another quote here that until one has loved an animal, a part of one's soul remains unawakened, really furthering that kind of concept that Tamara had us go into. And hopefully each of us here has had or currently enjoys the love of an animal. There is a emotional bond. There could be telepathy involved. I mentioned I did a paper for my current class I'm taking. You know, as a ministerial student, I don't quite have my so-called collar. I'm in school, so I'm taking this class this summer, psychical research. And my paper was on, can animals, do they have ESP? Are we connected telepathically with our animals? And I talked about a study done by Rupert Sheldrake, who said, well, he did a whole video. He recorded this dog who would anticipate when its owner was about to come home, and recorded all the normal times to get a baseline, and then scheduled times when this person was going to be away. And the dog could just know, would just go by the door before the guy who beeped the lady to come home. The dog picked up on it and went to the door before Rupert sent the message to the lady that she should come home. Now, the dog just knew it was time, and they have studies. And so I love studying the connection between the animal and the owner. And there are many stories, yet anecdotal, that say, my dog knew. My dog came to me and before I fell to the ground, caught me, broke my fall because the dog knew. It could smell, it could tell. There's one dog in Japan that still goes to the train station every day waiting for its owner, who used to come home every day on the train and be, accompanied by his dog. That dog continued to do so for 10 years. And they created a statue of the dog at the station. There are stories of, so many stories. Hospital rooms before the person transitions, that the dog just knew or the cat just knew. And so we do have an intimate connection with our pets. That is a given. Today, I'd like to talk to you about stretching that connection to all of the animals on the planet. I mean, it's easy to love the pet that's in your house, and then to walk outside and poo-poo and shoo and shun and judge every other animal just because it's not as furry, it's not cute, you don't know it. I mean, there's validity in being afraid of a free roaming dog with no leash and no owner. Okay, yes, be afraid. But in general, the general disdain that I'll speak for myself, I may have for animals that I'm not familiar with, animals that I've conditioned myself to be afraid of over the years. That's where I get to examine my relationship with the other life that's not human life on this planet. And so this is our discussion today, because we're all one. We are all affecting one another in a grand way, in ways that we have no idea exist. And so from the large to the small, what can we notice around us? What can we notice? And you don't even have to go outside your house. I was reading a study. They did a census on insects living inside your home with you. It was baffling, a little bit scary, but totally normal. They came to this one house, and it was done in the UK. And just like you would do a census, you take a census of a city or a town or neighborhood. They took a census of all the animals living inside a home. And they found tons of little creepy crawlies, tiny little microscopic little beings that we can't see with our naked eye, from the dust mite to the silent little silverfish that might be microscopically in the wood, up to 10,000 different types, from a couple hundred to 10,000, depending on where you are. And if you live near the woods, and if you like, there's a lot of ifs, but you could have 10,000 different species of little animals living with you. Yay, I guess. And they said, even if they did the study, even if you had someone coming through, exterminating, possibly over exterminating your surroundings, you still have these little beasts, these little creatures. And the point of it was that we as humans have always had them. We have always been living with little tiny microscopic and not so microscopic creatures. In fact, they probably hitchhiked a ride when we migrated from Africa to the rest of the continents. So is it so strange that we live with these creatures? No, it's not so strange. They've even done a study about our microorganisms that are inside our gut. Well, first I was reading a study that had to do with what do they call archaeologists that dig through? Maybe they're geologists. Anyway, they were in the Arctic, and they're drilling down 1,000 feet into the ice till they break through to some water, and their little cameras caught this amoebic life form that couldn't possibly be living in the ways we normally live. There's no oxygen down there as we know of it. There's no light. And so these are little protozoic kind of creatures that are just having their life. So the camera caught a big old party going on underneath. And it was a recent study, so it just came across my news feed. And I was like, oh my gosh, look at life. Look at life. Just, it's going to do its thing, no matter where you find it. And so that's what we talk about. We have to think about the fact that much as we would like to cultivate and what's the word, manicure our environment, we're thinking that we're doing a favor to nature. We're thinking that we can just remove an element so it could be more comfortable for us. We probably should leave it alone. I remember as a small child, I used to ask my mom, why do we have bees? Because I had just gotten stung by a bee. I'm like, we should just kill the bees. And she's like, no, don't even think that. They're essential. And I couldn't remember at the time why she told me they were essential. And I thought she was just making it up because, in my opinion, seems to be no use for bees. And now I know, as a grown person who reads things, bees are the only reason we're alive. Well, one of the only reasons. All right. And so my older self says, I'll allow it. And then I go down the list of my judgy things that I don't like. And one would be the gnat. And I'm like, but why gnats? Because you ride your bike and you go through this little cloud and then you've got to do the whole thing with your hands and you get them out and they're in your mouth. Why gnats? Turns out there's a reason for gnats. Everything on this planet is here on purpose, working together with the whole structure of ecology and there's a community going on, even if we can't see it. This community operates perfectly whole doesn't depend on our opinion, unless our opinion is to get rid of it, and then there's a problem. I feel like nothing states this point of view more clearly than the Yellowstone wolf situation. There were some agriculturists, people who had livestock, who complained, "Oh, the wolves are killing my livestock. Get rid of the wolves in Yellowstone." What happened after they did that? Ooh, it's not good. And again, if I tell you the story, I'm going to leave things out. So I found a 5-minute or so video, and some of you have seen this before, where they explain exactly why plucking out the little annoying thing that seems to bother you could take down a whole ecosystem. And when you put it back, things get better. Let's check it out. Give me a second while I spin it up. Okay, hopefully you can see that. Let's go.
One of the most exciting scientific findings of the past half-century has been the discovery of widespread trophic cascades. A trophic cascade is an ecological process which starts at the top of the food chain and tumbles all the way down to the bottom. And the classic example is what happened in the Yellowstone National Park in the United States when wolves were reintroduced in 1995. Now, we all know that wolves kill various species of animals, but perhaps we're slightly less aware that they give life to many others. Before the wolves turned up, they'd been absent for 70 years. That the numbers of deer, because there was nothing to hunt them, had built up and built up in the Yellowstone Park, and despite efforts by humans to control them, they'd managed to reduce much of the vegetation there to almost nothing. They'd just grazed it away. But as soon as the wolves arrived, even though they were few in number, they started to have the most remarkable effects. First, of course, they killed some of the deer, but that wasn't the major thing. Much more significantly, they radically changed the behavior of the deer. The deer started avoiding certain parts of the park, the places where they could be trapped most easily, particularly the valleys and the gorges. And immediately those places started to regenerate. In some areas, the height of the trees quintupled in just 6 years. Bare valley sides quickly became forests of aspen and willow and cottonwood. And as soon as that happened, the birds started moving in. The number of songbirds and migratory birds started to increase greatly. The number of beavers started to increase because beavers like to eat the trees. And beavers, like wolves, are ecosystem engineers. They create niches for other species. And the dams they built in the rivers provided habitats for otters and muskrats and ducks and fish and reptiles and amphibians. The wolves killed coyotes. And as a result of that, the number of rabbits and mice began to rise, which meant more hawks, more weasels, more foxes, more badgers. Ravens and bald eagles came down to feed on the carrion that the wolves had left. Bears fed on it too, and their population began to rise as well, partly also because there were more berries growing on the regenerating shrubs. And the bears reinforced the impact of the wolves by killing some of the calves of the deer. Here's where it gets really interesting. The wolves changed the behavior of the rivers. They began to meander less. There was less erosion. The channels narrowed. More pools formed. More riffle sections, all of which were great for wildlife habitats. The rivers changed in response to the wolves. And the reason was that the regenerating forests stabilized the banks so that they collapsed less often, so that the rivers became more fixed in their course. Similarly, by driving the deer out of some places and the vegetation recovering on the valley sides, there was less soil erosion because the vegetation stabilized that as well. So the wolves, small in number, transform not just the ecosystem of the Yellowstone National Park, this huge area of land, but also its physical geography.
So wow, right? I mean, who would think that such a tiny change? I mean, first we removed the wolves because they were bad. They would eat the livestock. Oh, let's get rid of those bad things. Cascade, Tropus. Well, you heard him say it. He said what it was. A cascade of negative events, and then you added them back, and all of how intricately is everything connected to where if you remove one element, it all sort of falls apart. And how responsive is it to change, that when we recognize that we've done that and we bring it back in, that things are a little better, much better, and life supporting. Now, in one sense, I'm just recapping what happened in the movie, but then in another sense, I'm talking also spiritually. When we remove something that we don't like out of our consciousness, we pull it out and say, well, I don't like that. I'm not going to think about that. It's dead to me. What parts of the rest of our lives now have that tropospheric cascading effect because we refuse to look at something that's uncomfortable? What kind of relationships are then choked up, or what kind of flatlands do we create in our intimate lives with others because we refuse to look at something? Maybe it's about ourselves. Maybe we get so defensive, no one can tell us about ourselves. No one can give us constructive feedback because we tend to go off, as they say. So that's an example of taking something out of our consciousness and our perception of ourselves, taking it out because it's not palatable. I don't want, nope, dead to me. And then I'm going to go ahead and try to live my life when what's falling down around it, because I can't deal with that one aspect that I've chosen to see as negative. Now the rest of my life tends to go the sort of way the Yellowstone Park went. And let's say that it's a part of yourself. Maybe, because a lot of our classes, we talk about what part of your life kind of is like your worst thing. What's your worst aspect of yourself? We had this in an exercise. And so a lot of us just kind of listed about 3 or 4, maybe 5 things that we didn't like about ourselves. And then we turned around and said, what if that is your special gift? What if that thing you don't like about yourself turns out to be the thing that makes you special, that thing that makes the gift that you have come to life? What if you just changed the way you looked at it, embrace that part of yourself? How would your life unfold then? And of course, in my mind, I'm thinking, whoa, if I bring back in the wolf, so to speak, the wolf being whatever aspect of myself I'm trying to remove, what if I bring that back in and embrace it and realize its place in my internal ecology? How would that affect the rest of the landscape of my life? If I embrace, let's say, sometimes people say, oh, she's too hyper, she has too much energy. What if I let that just be the thing? Instead of trying to pretend to be some stoic Black woman that everyone can say, look at Charlene, she's regal. No, I'm kind of a goof, and I try to pretend I'm not a goof. I'm silly, but I love it. I'm kind of fun. What if I let the fun part in? Let the joyous part in. Let that be what it is. What if that were the case? And then what happens then is when I teach classes, people are like, oh my God, you are hilarious. We love listening to you. Please, I've got a review that said, Charlene is the human equivalent to the 5-hour energy drink. I'm like, thank you. Because I let myself just embrace that part of me that's a little bit, it's okay, because people actually stay awake while they're learning, and they're laughing while they're learning. And studies have shown what better way to learn if you're having fun. And so it turns out some of these things which we initially judge about ourselves, it could be the equivalent of you just growing up with being taught to be afraid of certain things. Actually, I grew up afraid of certain things like spiders and worms. I used to call worms snakes because to me, they were snakes. And my mother told me I tried to help her in the garden. And the minute I saw a worm, I was out. And I was like, Mom, how old was I? She says, you were like 3. I said, so I was born with this, I guess. I just didn't like creepy crawly things. So whatever it is that you don't like doesn't mean it's bad in general. It just means there could be something that we can do to embrace this thing that's foreign to us that we're calling bad. And one thing we could do is read up about it. I know for me, when I took Blake, my son, to the zoo and took him through all the, the Amazon forest section of the zoo where they have every single thing that you will see in the Amazon forest, all I'm thinking is places not to visit in person. Got it. But as I looked and saw the beauty of that, whatever reptile was wrapped around that tree branch, I thought, well, because it's behind the glass, I guess I could look at it without freaking out too much. And I got a little better at it. It turns out knowledge of the thing, studying the thing, removes the fear and allows us to appreciate its place on the planet and in our lives. Again, am I just talking about animals? Not really. Studying the thing about ourselves that we're afraid of, becoming a witness to how we judge ourselves when we go into that mode that we've judged is bad. Just learning more about it brings the item of disdain into our consciousness. We bring it in, we invite it in, we sit it down and we speak with it, we commune with it, and we become more knowledgeable, which is then a good way to foster gratitude for this element in our lives that may not be initially so great. We become gracious for it, grateful for it, compassionate with ourselves and with others. And then the best part about this, once we learn about ourselves, when other people bring it up, you could just giggle. Yep, that's me. Did they mean it as an insult? Because that's funny. Yeah, I also know these things about me. Nah, gotta love me or not. I mean, it becomes not such a big deal what people think of you because you've already decided to love and embrace the parts of yourself that may not be as, embraced by society. And if you want to learn about how the ecology works, how different ecosystems work together, pulling on, some of the stuff we saw in the previous little movie, this book, I found it it's part of our book. It's part of the list of books for CSL for the year. This is August's book, The Secret Wisdom of Nature. So this author goes deeply into the story of Yellowstone and all of the elements that led up to the demise and all of the elements that led up to the resurgence and regrowth of the area. And that's just the first chapter. He goes on to talk about how fracking is not so great because of the life that happens and lives underneath those rocks, and we're trying to get the gas to come up, but it also can do things we don't want that to do. Lots of trouble there. He talks about salmon and how the salmon, if they can't swim upstream, they're going to have issues. They can't get back to their nesting place. Every chapter is like, what? And so if you want to get to know life at a more granular level, at the protozoan bacterial level that has to do with you, then definitely grab that book. It's on Kindle. It's an audiobook. It's a great read. And it just helps if you're anything like me, prone to the eek and the creepy crawly, well, this book helps us to really get into, yes, and this is an absolute necessary part of nature. And it's not up to me to dislike it and remove it. It's just up to me to embrace it, raise my compassion, raise my awareness of our connectivity, and just be grateful that there's a whole system that I don't even have to maintain that maintains me. And I am a part of it. And I get to honor it in the ways that feel right for me. And if you don't want to go full vegan, maybe vegan Mondays is good for you. Or maybe take a meal and go vegan for that meal if that's right for you. It's all your personal journey. And we in this community get to embrace each other as we're in whatever part of that journey that we're in, as long as we're each growing, evolving, becoming more and more of who we truly are, and shedding away the parts of us that are not real and that are not our highest truth. And again, I'm out of time. Darn it, how that happens. Hopefully you've typed into the chat any requests for prayer. I do have 2 names, and so let's go within. Right here in this moment, I just simply speak this word of affirmative prayer, starting out with knowing that there's no separateness, there's no thou and my. There's only we, the divine itself. That would be the creator of the universe itself, the divine emanation of wisdom, the intelligence, the source of all life that is in and through and as the life itself. What I'm saying is, it's all God. We are part of that divine. We're never separate from it. It lives, it moves, it has its beingness inside each and every one of us. And knowing that we cannot be separate from our highest good, the only thing separating us from this good is our thought. And so right here, right now, I'm speaking my word that we are aligned with the highest thought, and that any thought unlike the highest and the best, that thought is no longer welcome. It dissolves. Just like darkness dissolves in the presence of a light bulb that is switched on, I know that my word of the highest truth for us immediately dispels any thoughts otherwise. I know that each of us are imbued with indwelling perfect wholeness, just waiting to be revealed by us. And so I speak my word that Paul right here, right now, has access and is now revealing his true wholeness. That every organ and action in his body is harmonious. It's working together perfectly as is in his divine nature. It already knows how to do so. And so anything unlike perfect health and wholeness right here, right now, flees in the presence of the truth that his true nature is healthy and whole. I speak my word for Susan, whose nephew's transition into the next yet to be, that this, although this time is filled with grief, I know that that grief is the degree to which she loved that nephew. And even now, although that nephew has transitioned to the other side, Susan is comforted by memories, by knowing, and by the love that she has shared with this nephew. So speaking of Susan and all the family, as they move through this time, knowing that all is well and love is revealing itself and will hold them through this time of loss. Finally, I speak my word continually all the time for my nephew Cootie, that he is whole, perfect, and complete. Every action and organ of his being is aligning and moving and starting to wake back up and propel him into his next stage of perfection, knowing that it is always the case. He is always whole. He's always perfect. And it is revealing itself even more so. And so with these words of truth that I have spoken, I know that as I speak it into the law, I speak it from a place of authority, because I have aligned myself with the truth of my word, that it is the word. And as I speak it, so it shall be. And so I release this word into the law, knowing it's already making itself done. I leave it right where it is. And so it is. Amen. Ashe. And Soul Pajamas, take us out.
Now, you might be surprised to learn that this song was written by Bob Dylan. And we also think it's really good if you listen to this song as if you were 5. Man gave names to all the animals in the beginning. In the beginning. Man gave names to all the animals in the beginning, a long time ago. He saw an animal that liked to growl, big furry paws, and he liked to howl. Great big furry back and furry hair. He said, yeah, I think I'll call it a bear. He saw an animal up on a hill, chewing up so much grass till she was filled. Saw milk coming out, but he didn't know how. He said, I think I'll call it a cow. Man gave names to all the animals in the beginning. In the beginning. Man gave names to all the animals in the beginning, a long time ago. He saw an animal that liked to snort, horns on his head and they weren't too short, and it looked like there was nothing he couldn't pull. I think I call it a bull. He saw an animal leave a muddy trail, a real dirty face and a curly tail. He wasn't too small and he wasn't too big. I think I call it a pig. Man gave names to all the animals in the beginning. In the beginning. Man gave names to all the animals in the beginning, a long time ago. Next animal that he did meet had wool on his back and hoofs on his feet, eating grass on a mountainside so steep. He said, yeah, I'm gonna call that one a sheep. Saw an animal as smooth as glass, slithering his way through the grass. Saw him disappear right into the lake.
I guess we'll call him a. Thank you. What a fun song. Now is the time to bless the donations that are shared today. At CSL Leesburg, we believe the law of circulation. So we are a tithing community. The donations shared with our center bless everyone, those who give and those who receive. Your donation helps our center, our CSL home organization, as well as organizations that support our vision of helping to create a world that works for everyone. Please look at our screen. There are many ways to give, and it's easy to find a way that works best for you. You may also go to our website, cslleesburg.org, and click the donate button. We thank you for your support. No matter how you're giving, take that gift physically or mentally, place it over your heart, and join us in our affirmation of oneness. The The presence of spirit within me blesses everyone I meet, tends to heal everything I touch, brings gladness into the life of everyone I contact, and therefore I'm a blessing to myself, to humankind, and to the day in which I live. Announcements. So on Tuesdays, we have a dream study. And if you're interested in learning more about the language of your dreams and how they can be used to help understand more of what's going on in your lives, to find those wolves, maybe, I don't know, then join us on Tuesdays at 9 a.m. You can find the link on our website. As well, on Wednesdays, we normally have a practitioner meeting, meeting with our practitioners to talk about all sorts of different topics, and we're taking the month of August off. It's our 8th anniversary. Join us for a celebratory picnic on September 24th from 3 to 8 p.m. We are having it at Tuscarora Creek Park, and you can RSVP there and bring a side dish, and more info will be sent with an Evite. For our closing affirmation, we end each service. Let us once again place our hands over our heart and say, I am love.
I am love.
Now point at someone near you or to our members or guests on the screen or even yourself and say, you are love.
You
are love. Now put your hands up in the air for some love sprinkles and say, it's all love.
It's all love.
And if you can stay for a few minutes, please feel free to join us as we share our pearls. Those are the little nuggets of our service that we will take with us. Maybe they're the aha moments, or maybe there's something that made you think a little bit more deeply about something, or something that spoke to your heart. If you're a visitor, please stay. We'd love to welcome you to our community and officially greet you. And if you have to leave us, we know that you are going to have a day filled with joy, love, and blessings. Have a blessed day. And thank you for your time.